All right, guys, we're back with the Kevin and Fred Show, and today joined by my longtime friend, David Queen. What is going on, dude?
Dude, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
It's good. I'm excited to do. I was thinking about this when I was texting you the other day because I knew you were coming to Phoenix. For those of you guys who don't know David, he's in Kingman, Arizona, which is the got to be the second largest city in the country. No, it's a small city, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But so it's a few hours away from me. So you're like, knew you were going to be here. We got the thing with Dustin tomorrow, Fired Up Fridays live, which I'm excited for. And I was like, dude, we got to record a podcast. I don't think you and I've done a lot of stuff over the years. Like we've done live Zooms, we've recorded webinars, we've taught classes together. And I was like, I don't think we've actually done a podcast. So I'm excited for this, dude, because it's been, in my mind, it's like a long time coming.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
So, David, let's do this, dude. I want to start. I want to tell the listeners how you and I met. And I know you know the story, but so you being in Kingman, Arizona, and also servicing Lake Havasu, our good friend Dustin Runyon introduced us, and the way that came about was I had a website, or Fred and I, my business partner and I, had a website that generated a ton of seller business for us back in like 2014, 15, 16 area, maybe even into 17. And we would invariably generate leads in your neck of the woods without trying to, just because somebody from there would be searching and they'd somehow see our ads. And I tried referring these really good leads. Like it was our number one listing source for quite a while at Group 4610. I would try referring these out to agents, and like I would just never hear back from anybody. And so one day I called Dustin, and at the time Dustin was the team leader of the Keller Williams there in Havasu, which also was in Kingman and kind of Mojave County, right? And he's like, dude, I got your guy. You're going to love this guy. He's like, his name is David Queen. Call him, give him your referral, and I think you guys will get along. And so I did. I call you. I give you this lead, and I remember you called me back like a day later. Or you texted me back a day later, like, and you said, "Hey, dude, this got the lead. Made contact. His phone number was wrong, but I just went to his house, and I think we got a listing appointment. I'm pretty sure you like closed that deal in 30 or 40." And I just remember thinking, "Oh my God, I love this guy. Like you took a lead." It was just a lead. Like it was a pay-per-click lead. And you went to this guy's house because the phone number was bad. And like, I was like, oh, this is my blood brother. Like, this is my guy right here. We're homies. And from there, it was like, it's kind of history. So I love how you and I connected because it was like, it's that same mindset of the way you chase down business and go after things was very similar to the way I've always approached my sales business as well. Kind of like fortune is in the follow-up. And so that was the icebreaker for you and I, but let's do this for the listener. Tell us give us like the elevator speech, dude. And please try not to be too humble. Like share your stats or whatever, or market share, whatever sounds right. However you would say it. Like tell us about the BMP network and what kind of volume do, and how long have you been in real estate?
Yeah, man. So that whole story you just shared, I actually use that today with like trainings with my team.
Do you?
And, yeah. And it's kind of cool because, like a lot of times we think of like somebody who's really energetic as somebody who's loud and like, getting
boisterous.
All the attention. Yeah. And I'm full of energy internally. And
Yeah.
so like, I'm like the quiet guy, but I will freaking outwork anybody. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and that was my goal, is like, well, like we didn't know each other. And actually I just based it off of what Dustin told me when he introduced us. He said, "Hey, don't let me down." He's like, "I like these guys." He's like, please do a good job. Right. And so I was like, okay, no problem. Like I got you. And so I just made sure I went above and beyond. And I think we actually had like 2 or 3 like in a row like that.
We did. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I gave one to you, and you guys like closed it and put it in escrow in Denver right away.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool. And, so I've been in real estate for, about 17 years, a little over that now.
Dang.
So quite a while. And I kind of started as the market like crashed, right? And I think it's similar to you guys, right? And so like the market had crashed, and like I had got into it. It's kind of funny. I was working at a grocery store, and this guy came in, and he was like trying to convince me to get my real estate license. And he like showed me this paycheck he got. And I was like, oh my God, that's more money than I'm going to make all year. And so then it made me like think about it, right?
They got your attention.
It got my attention. And then he came back in and he goes, "Hey, that piece of land that I sold," he's like, I sold it again and we doubled the price, and he had a paycheck double the amount. And I was like, oh, I'm going to school. And, and so I get into real estate school, and what's crazy is I'm thinking that was my expectation, right? Is I'm going to get paychecks like that guy. And so I get my license, and the market crashes instantly right after I get licensed, right?
Good timing.
And I had no other option. I was young and just kind of starting my life, and I was 22 years old, and so I jump into real estate. And within 2 months, I quit my other job at the grocery store, went into real estate, and I had no choice but to figure it out. And there was only one thing that I knew was I'm not going back to that grocery store, and I'm not going back to any other job. I'm going to do this no matter what. And so I had to figure it out. And so I was working like day and night, like literally like at the office, 8 o'clock, work till about 5 or 6, and then I'd go home, eat dinner. And then I was actually going back to my office, and I'd work until like midnight.
Damn.
So, and then I'd go home and I'd work till like 2 in the morning. And so I was just doing like whatever I could to figure things out. I had no like mentor or coach or anyone showing me. It was literally just like, I failed, I got up. I failed, I got up, like over and over and over and over. And it sucked, but I was also like kind of numb to it, I think, because I was doing it so much, like failing so much. And but I eventually I started to like figure things out. So that was, I think, like 05, 06 in that area. And then I sold a few homes first year, nothing great. Sold a few homes. Second year, I started doing pretty good. My third year, I actually became the number one agent in my city, and I still felt like I sucked, and I still felt like I. Like,
why do you think that is? Like, why did you feel that way?
I don't know. I always tell people I have high achiever syndrome. Like I always want more, and sometimes it's like it's something that actually holds me back. I think sometimes, but. Right. But I think at the time, like I was still looking for that paycheck, that guy had. And and I never in my career today have I seen a paycheck like what that guy showed me. Never in my life. Yeah. I've had a bunch of small ones that added up to more than that in a month, but never just one check. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I was always like just trying to figure it out. And the problem that I learned like later on in life was like that I had then was I was chasing that paycheck forever and ever and ever and ever. And when I stopped chasing the paycheck, then things started to show up better, and I started growing more. But I didn't learn that for like several years. But to fast forward, so I've been licensed for 17 years, became the number one agent in my city. And then I think it was the following year after that, I actually became the number one agent in my county. And then I was like I kind of felt like I hit a limit, and I'm like, what do I do? And I had worked at RE/MAX when I started, went to a small brokerage. I think I had 21 pending sales when I was at RE/MAX, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go somewhere where it's cheap, and I'm going to save some money. So I went to this cheap private company, and it was cheap except for like all their other little fees added up, right? And so,
dude, they get you no matter what. Like all those companies, they're going to get paid no matter what.
And well, that's what was crazy is I didn't see it that way then, and I think I sold like 40 homes one year, and then the next year I sold 82, and then the next year I sold 204. And so 204 times all the fees, I was paying way
it's
more.
It's a lot.
Oh, dude, it was a lot.
It's a lot.
And so then I was like, all right, I got to do something else. And then I found Keller Williams, and I went there, and I started hiring people. I'd hired 2 people at the private company, and then when I went to Keller Williams, I think I hired 2 more like right away. And I felt like I hit a ceiling, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And it was actually Dustin who showed me. He's like, stop looking at yourself as the agent and look at yourself as like a brokerage. He's like, let's look at what brokerages are doing. And we started looking at numbers, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, that's the game I'm playing right now. And so then I was like a brokerage game, a hiring game, right? And so then I started growing my team, and we actually ended up growing a lot. The problem I had there was I thought that everyone was going to be just like me.
That is such, even to this day, when I'm talking to, hanging out with, consulting an agent who's like starting to build a team and like it's early on, especially if there's like 1 or 2 that are good agents with them, they haven't faced the reality of life that not everyone they hire is going to want to conquer the world like they do. And that for some people, like selling 5 houses or 2 houses or 20 houses a year is more than enough to fulfill them. And that's a real freaking hard lesson to learn. But I want to go backwards a second, dude. So you talked about the progression 40 to 80 and then to 204. The town you live in, bro, is this big. Like it's the size of the palm of my hand at best, right? That's being generous here. So give us how do you sell 200 homes in that small of an area? Because I got to imagine that had to be 5+% of the total unit count in that city.
It was actually 14% market share.
Good God, 14% market share. Okay, so the first question I think of, and obviously I think I know the answer to this, but I want the listener to hear this. Like, how do you generate that much business, dude?
So it's kind of funny because like at the time, I felt like I had every lead, right? I felt like I didn't need to do more marketing. I needed to get better at like converting.
Right.
Because I was having people that were buying homes through other agents and telling their agents that like I did a good job for them. Like they thought they were coming through me, but they weren't, right? And like my escrow officer at the time was telling me that people would be like, oh yeah, well, David was helping us. And I had no clue who these people were. And so I knew that like I had automation systems in place, like listing alerts and emails and like stuff going out to people, but I needed to like cause like human connection. And that's where I needed to get better. Because I was always just kind of in my bubble, in my lane, just kind of like running full speed. You know, I'd stay up till 2 a.m. trying to like lead generate in my own way, but getting better at like actually converting and working the people that I had actually was a lot more powerful than just getting another lead.
You know, what's so funny is like, that even today, here we are, you and I recording this. It's, gosh, we're coming up on the fourth quarter of 2022, and so much has changed technology wise and in the industry. And yet that's still the same. Like almost everybody I know, like everything that they need to hit every goal they ever have in their business is actually already in their database. It's already inside of their business. It's a matter of like pulling it out. And that really is the trick. I don't know that it matters at any stage you're at, even if you're a brand new agent, right? Like, dude, you got a phone book, you have people in your phone and the app on your phone that are your sphere of, you've got somewhere to start, right? Like
it's probably the number one question I got throughout my whole career is, and here's the thing too, is like today I'm playing a different sport, like what I focus on and what I'm doing compared to then, right? But back then everyone would see like how many homes I was selling or what we were doing and in our small town, and they're all shocked, but they'd be like, where do you get your leads? How do you get in those leads? Like they thought I had like the secret sauce,
Yeah.
And like, to me, I'm like, man, like a contact, a human, right? Like not like stop looking for the buyer and seller and start just looking for the renter and the homeowner and just get them in your database, provide value to them. And then it was like connect with those people and like show them that you really care about them and stop having commission breath and just trying to get a paycheck. Cause like that's where in the beginning I was chasing that big paycheck. Right. And it actually was a big learning curve for me to realize like, man, if I just cared about people a little bit more, like all of a sudden I got more paychecks.
Yeah. That's I think that's still the main problem with most agents that are struggling is what you just said there. And it's not about, like you said, like people thought you had like these magic leads or these special leads, and your leads were special because you treated them as such. That's what made them special. It didn't really matter. Like you could have got, Zillow leads, or you could have bought, Boomtown, or run your own IDX website. Like it doesn't matter. You could have bought leads from all the different lead sources that were available then, just like they're available now. The thing that makes them special is the way you treat them, right? And at least that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that. And so I do think that there's like a technology curve, I guess I would call it, where, like if you can kind of stay on the head of that curve, like on the peak of that, and be doing things before other people do them. Like sometimes you actually, if you adapt early, almost in everything, like you just have more opportunity. And
yeah,
so,
for sure.
Like back then, like Facebook wasn't really a thing. I don't even know if it existed, to be honest, back then. Like MySpace did, right? And
yeah.
So Facebook was pretty new. And but anyway, so like websites weren't like a big thing. Like a lot of agents didn't even have a website. And I couldn't afford one back then. So I was like, okay, well, what do I do? And like my brokerage didn't give me one. And so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to like Google, how do I build a website? So here I am like on Google and YouTube and like learning how to HTML code and like just like opening up Notepad on my computer and testing it and trying it. I had no clue what I was doing. But I actually made a website. It was Kingman Home Finder back then, which doesn't exist anymore. But it actually ended up being the #1 ranked like naturally on Google for like every key phrase you could think of.
Wow.
Like, I don't know if you remember, but we were in Vegas one time and I was like showing you, I was like, look at this. You type in Kingman Homes with pools.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And like, I showed up before Zillow. I showed up before like the big players. And so, and everyone was like, man, how do I get your website? Like, can you build me one? And like, honestly, like that's what I was doing until 2 a.m. So like, I didn't have time to go build my competitors a website, you know?
Yeah.
And, but it was like that one little thing I did early on, like it actually gave me the ability to be able to capture a few more leads early on, build my database. And I think I got my database up to like 50,000 contacts, like pretty quick.
Damn.
Which is crazy, right?
Damn.
And but then I have the problem of like organizing it and doing all that, right?
How do you
So,
possibly follow up with like, how do you provide value to even a quarter of those people, right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, everything I think has its pluses and minuses to it. Let me ask you this, dude. So you're obviously earlier on, and even when you and I met, like you're actually still doing some production. You're taking some listings, but you're also growing a team at that time. You've obviously you've referenced it a few times. Like what you do today is different because you've definitely grown more of a business and really even a community. Like that's what I see you doing, and that's what I've seen you do for a while now. Is like you have a community of other agents that are part of the BPM network. And so tell me, like, what's been the biggest change for you going from the guy who's in production at a high level and selling a few hundred houses with a couple of agents on his team to like what you do today?
So I've told people in the past, I think I have this natural ability to just like letting go of things. A lot
to
of
like not micromanage. Is that what you mean? Okay.
And I just had it naturally. I don't know what it was, but to me it was like a relief. I was like, thank God there's somebody here, you know? And so like, I really truly appreciated other people because I felt like the need for it. And then I had the help. And like a lot of people, they get to a point in their career where that would be their next step is get leverage, right? Get some help. But they still do the job, even though they have the person and they're stuck on micromanaging. And, you know, they feel like if it's not done exactly their way, then it's a fail. And to me, I was like we would get some people that, you know, a complaint even from a client. And I would tell the person that worked with me, like, hey, no problem. Like, I still love you and I'm glad you're here. Like they were afraid I was going to fire them, you know? But I always had that ability of just being like, okay, the people with me, I care about more than anything, more than I care about the other sales, right? Like, cause these people are here for life with me. And if we have the problem that happens, that we have an opportunity to like make it better and better and better. And so that led down to me learning like leadership and learning how to like develop others and make them believe in themselves and show them what they're capable of. But at the same time, I was like, okay, how do I make it so I can go hire people in like other locations? Because you and I had talked one time and I reached out and I was like, dude, what do I need to do to like, just to grow? And you're I don't know if you remember this, man, but your answer was get out of Kingman. Like you need to be around more people, right? And like,
that sounds like something I would say like so abrupt, only because we're friends and I love you. Like I would say it like that, get out of Kingman. Like, so, you know, that's abrasive if you don't know each other and have the rapport that you and I have, right? And so, yeah, no doubt. So I remember that.
So that was quite a few years ago, but I remember that like, it sunk in and I was like, man, he's right. And I was like, I need to figure out how to grow in other areas. And then I was like, okay, well, how am I going to grow in another area? And how am I going to make sure that they do the exact same process, that they do this, they use the same scripts, they have the same like automation tools that we have. Like, how am I going to just duplicate my business, right? And so I started actually building what I call our transaction system today, which actually does a lot of stuff. And I started automating like activities, like for example, like I have like 4 developers on staff today, and they do a bunch of different things for us. But in the beginning, I sat down with Stephanie, who's like my freaking right arm, and I sat down with her and I was like, all right, I'm going to start just giving you a bunch of ideas. I want you to write them down, organize this, and I want you to make it to where it like makes sense to someone else. And she's like, all right. And I just started like, vomiting all kinds of ideas. And she wrote it all down, and she's like, what's your goal with this? And I was like, I want to be able to handle like 400 units a month. And she was like, what? And I'm like, just think really big with me. I'm like, if we were able to do 400 units a month, like we need a better system. And so we started writing down all these ideas, and then we started hiring developers and then building it out. And man, like I've probably spent $400,000 on this system year to date now, but it does everything, man. Like Stephanie told me, when we first launched it, she was like, what used to take me all day long now takes me 15 minutes.
Damn. So, and Stephanie, like you said, like your right hand, she's gangster. She is David's like support. She does a lot. She's amazing. And so for her to say that, for someone to be as productive as she is, cause she's a highly productive individual, to go, hey, from all day to now with these systems that we've built, I can do these things in 15 minutes. Like that's massive.
Dude, she told me, she goes, you're not gonna need me. And she was like worried that I was gonna like get rid of her, right? And I was like, oh no, I'm always going to need you. Like we're not done, right? Like we're not gonna just stop growing now. And so today, like she was my TC or assistant, and today I call her our support manager because she does way more than just a TC now.
So much more, yeah.
And so anyway, going back to that, my other thought with that system was, I was like, man, I want to bring agents in other cities, but I want to make sure that the client gets the same experience. I want to make sure that the agent could be brand new, but even though they're brand new, the client's going to think like, man, you've been doing this for years, like everything was perfect. And then in addition to that, I wanted our like vendors, like the escrow company, the lender, I wanted all of them to be super happy with us, because my goal is if we give everyone a good experience, that they're going to send more agents to come join my team.
Right.
And so I was like, it's really important to me that they all get communication, they all get everything instantly. And like we did things wrong a few times, right? Like we learned as we went, we had to upgrade our system, but like it does, I mean, there's 382 canned emails that it sends for us in our transaction. There's like, it's intense, man.
380. God. You just made me throw up a little bit in the back of my throat. So that's a pretty intense. So how do you, I guess my question, dude, is what's your job? Like, what does David Queen do? Like, what do you view your job as? Because you do now, like fast forward, like I'll share the punchline. Like, yes, you sell real estate in Kingman, Lake Havasu City, like I'm going to call it the greater Phoenix area, Flagstaff area. Like you sell and outside of Arizona now too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, Nevada and Washington State.
Yeah, no, that's right, Nevada and Washington. And so so you're doing that. Like, what do you, in your mind, what is your job?
So I think that because I invested early on into my business through people like Stephanie, through systems like this transaction system that we built, and I have over 100 different software programs that I've purchased that I own that I'm not paying monthly for. And so I'm able to keep my overhead low. I invested into it and bought them outright up front. And so I'm
like one of those deals where you can just pay a one-time fee instead of paying a monthly recurring or yearly fee.
Yeah. So I've done that. I've done that since I started, actually, just because I was like, I was cheap and I was like, okay, I'm probably going to use that forever. So let's just buy it. And so I've always kind of gone over with that approach. And today I have over 100 different software systems. So we have, that's a job in itself, just organizing like what we have access to, right? And so we have virtual assistants that like use all these different systems, like to do everything we ever need, edit videos, create videos, whatever, any kind of marketing materials that we need. But anyway, so my overhead's able to keep low. So because I'm able to keep it low, I'm actually able to now go to people and find the right people that I can, like, I call them my partners.
Right.
Like my team is like what I would consider a true partnership team, where our structure is different. I go find people that want to build and grow with me, that I already have all these tools and systems, and I just say, hey, here's everything that we have, and I think that you're the right person to help us sell more homes and grow the business. And if they buy in and they like it, and then we go grow together. And so everything's done. And my point of saying I have my overhead low is I'm actually able to, like, have you ever see those teams offer no value, but then they have like a really high split?
Yeah. You mean like most teams?
Yeah. And you're like, what do you even pay for? Right. Like I'm actually able to give like a competitive split to my agents and I can still stay profitable and then the agent's happy and they get more value than they could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And so, that was always my goal early on. And honestly, that I couldn't say that until probably like 2 years ago.
You know what I like is your viewpoint of, you said something a minute ago, like your viewpoint of like having partners as opposed to like just having agents on your team. Because dude, when we met, your business name, your team name was like the Queen Team, and now it's BPM Network. Like, will you tell the listener like what is that? And I think they'll probably get why you made that change. But
yeah, so like people want to build a business. Everybody, especially in this industry, like they get into real estate because they want to create some like freedom for themselves. They want the flexibility of the schedule, but they want to make money too, and they don't want the limit of like here's your hourly rate. That's all you can get, and
right.
They want to be able to grow. And I was trying to like match all of that at one time. And so what I was getting feedback from over the years was people like don't want to join a team when it's someone else's name. They want to brand themselves, build their business. And like most team owners, and I'm probably going to offend a lot of people talking like this, but it's what separates us a lot is a lot of team owners, their ego is in the way so freaking bad, man, that it prevents them from growing and they don't even realize it. And I changed a lot of things and I was scared, to be honest, because I was being taught to make it the David Queen Team, to make sure that I control everything and protect myself, protect my money, protect, everything that I have that I'm creating. And when I flipped it and I said, hey, we're partners and your contracts are in your name, you can use your own sign. We have signs, but you get to brand yourself. And I actually tell my team, I'm like, there's people that look at us and they don't know who owns BMP Network. They don't know who the team leader is. And like, that's my goal, is like, I want all of us to look like this is theirs. And
what do you think? I think this might be hard for you to answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. And the reason I think this is hard for you to answer is because, like me, you said it yourself, like you're kind of just like relieved to have the help. You don't have problems sort of giving up control on things. Like you want the partnership, but the way you operate your business and kind of like what David does today as his job versus what you did as your job, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, vastly different. And so you're in a lot of ways, you've had to learn how to have a different skill set. Like what are either the lessons you've learned or the things you've had to work on? Because you're right, man, there are so many agents, like they don't even realize it, but it's literally their own damn ego that is stopping them from growing into something like what you have built. What did you have to work on, or what are any steps that you might have taken to do that?
I had to learn to value people like way more than I did. So even though I was valuing them because I was like, I saw a benefit and I was like, oh wow, like you gave me leverage, you saved me time, and I would value them in that aspect. I had to learn to actually value who they really are. And like, okay. And so not just from like, oh, you're in my life and you're going to help me and I benefit, so now I value you. I had to learn really so like on our team, man, we don't have like, we don't follow like KPI stuff. Like I'm not like, hey, how many calls did you make? I'm not like, even though our system tracks it all and we actually track everything, but even though we do, I haven't looked at it, man. Like I would call you and just say, hey, is everything okay? How are you doing? And like, just check on you as a human being. And like, I've changed it to where in order to fit in with us, like we have 3 rules and it's literally be nice. Number 1, like if you're a dick, get out of my life.
Yeah.
Cause I've had a lot of those. And so it's like, be nice. Number 1. Number 2 is, no gossip and no jealousy. And like, I believe jealousy is like the weakest emotion and it causes cancer in the business.
Yeah.
Literally like, don't be jealous of me. Don't be jealous of the team member. Don't be jealous of anybody. Don't be jealous of people outside of here. Like jealousy's got to be gone. And then the last thing is you ever heard the saying, people want you to do well, like to do good, but not better than them?
Yeah.
Okay. That's like so common, right? So on our team, like that's like the one that I watch the most is you actually have to like inside feel good and be happy for somebody else when they're winning. And when you're not winning, like still be happy.
Yeah. Dude, that's hard for a lot of people to do. Like that's a challenge for most people to do. And I'm, I find myself most of the time genuinely being happy for people who are winning, who are winning quote unquote. I hate even saying this, more than me. Or, like I'll look, Curtis Johnson, like we'll be talking about, he'll always ask us, how's our rev share business going? And I'll be like, dude, how's yours? And I'll see it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm genuinely so happy for him. Like I feel joy for him. And I know that that's not always easy thing to feel for other people, or at least it's not natural. I think most people don't kind of grow up in that, or they don't sort of come up in that naturally, literally feeling joy for somebody else's great results, independent of your own. Like, cause most of us tie how we feel, good or bad, to how we're doing, good or bad. Right. And so like, that's such a challenge. I love that. That's a filter. And even not knowing that, like, that's not actually something you've said to me before. As I reflect, I've been around you and the people in your world so much over the years. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I totally see that. I see how that shows up for you,
man. And it's changed the game since I started like voicing it. Cause like I used to like talk about it sometimes, but now it's like when I first meet somebody wanting to join our team, we go over that and I talk about it. So when COVID hit, I was like, screw this, I'm not going out of business. Like I was scared of COVID, and like didn't know what was going to happen like everyone else. And so we actually stopped meeting once a week, and we were like, we're going to meet every freaking day on Zoom, and I'm going to call it intentional success. And I'm going to go through every single thing that we need to be doing to make sure that we come out on top no matter what happens in the market. And what's funny is we loved it so much, I still do it today. And even though it all worked for us, right? The market took off and it got easy.
Yeah.
Like it was still like a really cool thing that I like took action on, because today we do intentional success Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in addition to like our script practices and all that. And it's like the thing that like pulls us together as a team. And we talk about like personal development. We talk about, new things we're going to do inside the business, and like new things that we're launching or whatever. It's like just a collaboration call. But I bring up those 3 rules all the time.
Dude, I love that. Yeah. If those are truly, if you have rules or like dojo rules, it's like rules for the dojo or whatever, like if you have things like that, I think it's important to like, to actually talk about it as often as possible. Like that is something like people have to be reminded of it. I think it keeps you accountable to it and brings it, just to the awareness, back into everyone's awareness.
It does. And what's crazy is, man, it looks so, or it feels so good. Not looks, it feels so good when I see like somebody on the team post on Facebook celebrating somebody else's win.
Yeah, dude, your team does that better than anybody I've ever seen. I love it. I fucking love the posts that your team puts on Facebook, because they are cheering for each other so hard.
Yep. And that's our foundation. So it's like, that's who we are as people. And what's funny is a lot of times people aren't that way when they join us. Right. But like, this is the other thing I talk about all the time that creates our culture is like when somebody joins us, like we're not going to like lower our standards. Like there's only a few options. Like one of the options is someone's going to join us and they're going to go, whoa, who the hell are these guys? I'm out of here. That's option 1. Right. And that's okay. And then the other option is they're going to come in and they're going to be like, I love this and I can add this, and they're going to make us level up. And that's honestly what I want. Yeah. And then the other option is they come in and we change their life completely and they buy in, and that's awesome too. Yeah. And like, those are the only options. And so which one's it going to be? We're not, because the option's not going to be they come in and they start gossiping and then we gossip too. And then we stop celebrating each other and then our whole business goes down. Like that ain't happening. Right. It's like, I protect it like it's my baby, and it's like the number 1 conversation we have.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to the agents out there who are like, maybe they've got a team, maybe they're having some level of success, but it's hard. Like they're not experiencing what you're experiencing. What do you tell people like that who are like, whether they're really just trying to get their team going, or like they have a team, it's kind of going, but they're having a hard time sort of breaking through?
Yeah. Can I be honest?
Yeah. Please.
If I was going to do it all over again, I would be finding somebody else that has all of this in place, and I'd be knocking on their door being like, hey, I can add value to the whole business, and here's how I'm going to come in and do it. And like, can we be a partner together? Like, I would knock on everyone's door till I found that.
You know what? I believe that about you. Just because, you and I for years, like we've gotten along so well. We've been friends. We've shared referrals. And at one point we were like, is there a way for us to work together? And we're like, we couldn't wrap our heads around a way to like sort of like merge our teams or bring our businesses together in a more formal way. But I know that I could tell, Fred could tell that you wanted to do it. And we definitely wanted to do it too. Like we wanted to find a way to be in business together because there's this just belief of like, we can create more together than we can, than we can apart. And then, that didn't work out later. Obviously we got to be able to work together and partner together with eXp Realty, which has been amazing because that's like a whole other level of it. So I totally believe that that's your answer. Because it's, again, I guess it goes back to your kind of what you're saying earlier. Like it's about partnering with people. It's not really about how do I grow my team or, become this big bad leader. It's really about like, who do I need in my life? Who do I need in my business?
And to go back on like that story too, like where we met and talked, like one thing I learned from that I share with people all the time actually is too many, like if you're asking too many people for their input and opinion, it only causes confusion for you. And I remember I went through that when we were talking.
Yeah.
I had too many people telling me what I should do, shouldn't do, their own fears. And like, man, I look back on it and I'm like, man, like I should have just like blocked all of them out. And like, if you want something, go freaking get it, dude. Like you have to, no one's going to do it for you.
Well, it's funny you say that, dude. Like, our situation aside, I felt like I kind of agree. I think you and I were me and Fred were kind of all on the same page. It was hard for the three of us to see a win-win. And neither of us were doing anything that wasn't win-win, even if we were the ones winning and the other party was losing because of who we are and how much we respect each other as people. And so I'll say that, but at the same time, what I'm going to say is what I see with a lot of teams is exactly what you just pointed out is they make decisions together instead of there being a leader. And at the end of the day, we can all have partnerships and that is amazing and we should have partnerships, but somebody has to make a decision. Like, and there can be too many cooks in the kitchen. I like the way Ray Dalio talks about it in his book Principles, where he's like, hey, everybody at the table like has an opinion about whatever the decision is, but like he's got a process for like waiting where like, so if you're the subject matter expert, like your opinion might matter 60% of the 100 and the other 10 people's might all only matter 5%, right? Or something like that. So like he weights the opinions. Everyone can have an opinion. So sort of, not quite everyone, but the experts can. And somebody has to be the leader at the end of the day. Somebody has to make a decision.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree with that.
It's too hard when I see people go, well, I'm going to talk to the team and see what they think about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, well, if that's the way you approach it, they're never going to get behind it because you're not behind it. If you want people to be behind, like, dude, when you switched to BMP, when you said we're rebranding, like you have to, I'm sure you had to do that from like saying, this is the plan, this is what we're doing, and lead from the front.
I had so much pushback, man. My old like OP, like owner of the franchise, right?
Yeah.
Like for those that don't know what an OP is, operating principal of a franchise, she actually told me I'm not allowed and not to do it. And that it was like death to my business if I did do it. And then I had the broker tell me the same thing. And I was like, no, I'm doing it, man. This is what I want. And I see it. And I had some people on my team tell me not to do it. And it actually was the best thing I ever did. And I wish I would have started this way. And also to go back to on like the people that were giving me like the input, like on our conversation about how we could merge. What's crazy looking back on that today is the people that were negative about it aren't even with me.
Yeah, of course. That's the way it goes, dude. Because they're viewing they're viewing life through a lens, right or wrong, good or bad, doesn't matter. They're viewing things through a lens, and oftentimes that lens is winner loser, as opposed to winner winner or win win, right? That's hard for a lot of people to see, and I don't mean any one specific agent, whether your team or mine, but just agents in general. Like, it's like if you ever hire an agent, if they came to you because you had a better split than the team or brokerage they were at, that's the same reason they're going to leave you, whether it's in 6 months or 6 years. That's why they leave, for the same reason they come in, right? And so that doesn't even surprise me a little bit, because that is, people show up. That's how they show up.
Yep. No, it is, and that's why we focus so much on like the person and the people that they're partnering with, and like us creating, like, man, we did a meeting this week where we went over some like charts of like what happens in your life. And it was like the 6 most important graphs you'll ever look at is what the title was. And one of them was, it talked about like why your spouse is so important, because throughout your life, you spend more and more and more time with your spouse than anyone else, like one-on-one. You also spend more and more time alone as you age than you ever would early on, like in your early 20s until 30. But then they talked about how much time you spend with the people you work with. And dude, it was like the highest part of the chart, and it was all the way across until you're like retired.
It's massive.
Yeah, it's massive. And so it's like, man, the people that you bring into your world and the people you choose to go work with, like this is why, like, man, if somebody really wants to like join our team or a team or business or whatever, like they shouldn't be going out and be like, all right, what do you offer me? Like they should be like barging in, being like, hey, here's what I can do to provide value. And but no one does this, right?
You should be checking to go, like, is this where I want to be? Is this where I want to hang out?
Yeah.
Like, right. Do I want to be around this guy? Do I want to be around these people?
But they should first observe and notice that. And then once they make that decision, they should do everything in their power to like get into that world.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And continuously provide value themselves, because the thing I've learned is that the people who are not providing value are usually the ones that say it sucks and complain.
Always,
yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, go back to like grade school or wherever you first heard it. It's like, you get in, you get out of it what you put into it. It's like that's just true for life, whether you're talking about a relationship, a partnership, work, friendship, like doesn't matter, right? A class that you attend, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And, I think that, gosh, that's so true. Who have been, whether like, dude, you're constantly learning, which is one of the things I like about you. Who have been some of the more influential teachers, or maybe some books that you've read, or things like that you have made a big impact on you over the years as you've developed as a person and as a leader?
Yeah. So growing up, I was the kid who hated to read. I actually have like some friends in high school that I would like pay them to like do my homework and stuff, like that was totally me. Like I was the kid that went to, we had a Hastings. We didn't have Blockbuster.
Same, dude. I grew up in Yuma. We had Hastings also. Yeah.
So like I was the kid that was at Hastings that had to read a book, and I'm looking for the movie. And and I found it, and I watched the movie, and then I found some website online that would like write a report on that book for me, and like I would like use it, and like sometimes I'd almost get caught, but like I would usually get away with it. That was usually me growing up, and then I found something I'm like passionate about, right? Like I love what I do, and man, today I've read over 200 books, mainly on like business or personal development, and because here's the thing I learned is in order for me to grow at all, like the people in my life are going to be limited to like my growth.
Yeah.
And like my kids, even like the people on my team or wherever, people just I spend time with, right? So like I have to continuously grow as a human being to get better in all areas. Otherwise, what happens is I'll stop. The people that are like following me will stop, and the people I spend time with will stop. And then guess what? The people I want to be with are going to take off and leave me.
Yeah.
And so like I use that as a challenge for myself to just be like, no, get better. And like today I'm so big on like contribute. Like how do I contribute? Offer value. Like I want to contribute to everyone. Like the V-Card site thing I sent you the other day. Like I'm like, dude, I'm just going to start giving stuff to people. Like whatever, if I'm good at it, like I'm just going to help you with it. And like that's like my goal right now is contribute and not ask for anything.
Yeah.
Just contribute, and don't expect anything. Cause like that's the other thing I've learned. I've watched people like contribute and then be like, they didn't even tell me thank you.
Like it's like they want to, they'll do something nice, but it's transactional still. Like so it's like wrapped up in I'm doing something for you, but it's truthfully, it's actually selfish and transactional, right? Like, don't get me wrong. You could be selfish and still not be transactional, meaning like if you could be a selfish person and just, you could get the concept of the law of reciprocity, right? You could understand that. And if you realize that for a very selfish reason, you could go, I'm going to give to David no matter what happens, whether I get anything back or not. And then I'm going to give to Kevin and to this, and to Stephanie and to all, all these people, and realizing that because if I do that enough, I'll actually get what I want. Like it'll come back to me. You could do that, but the minute you make it transactional and go, if I give to David, I have to expect from David, it's over. Yep. Like it's not going to work.
Yep. And I've experienced that in the past. And so where not so much where I had expected it, but then I would give and like, I would kind of like get giver's remorse to where I'm like, okay, well I'm giving and I'm not getting anything, and like those thoughts would come up, and I've had to like develop myself and my thoughts and my brain to control that and be like, no, like I am a giver, and I'm going to like, I'm consciously aware. Like I don't give to people who are like time sucks that just take all the time.
Sure.
Sometimes I do until I figure that out. Right. But my goal is if somebody gave me value at all, like right now, those are the people I'm focused on. It's like, I want to give to them. I want to give to them. I want to give to them. Right. And so like, I've read over 200 books, man. So like, I go back to your question, like the ones that come to mind is like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Obviously everyone loves that book. Right.
Yeah.
I was talking to my fiance on the way here and she's like, I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list.
It's great foundations. It's kind of, I haven't read it in a year or two. I reread it, I think about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And it's kind of cheesy and like super simple, but like foundationally it's so wise.
And it's cheesy and simple to you today, but like somebody that grew up the way like we
dude,
grew
it was
up,
groundbreaking. When I read it, it was paradigm shifting for me. It's why I'm in real estate.
Yep. Same with me. So I actually used to go from the grocery store and I would walk over to Hastings and I would sit down on the floor and I'd read these books, man, because I couldn't afford to buy them.
To actually buy them.
Yep. And so I'd get off work in the middle of the afternoon and I would go sit on the floor and then I would take the book and I'd be afraid someone else was going to buy it. So I'd put it on a different shelf in a different category and I would remember where it was.
That's awesome.
I'd come back the next day and I'd have a little bookmark in it, and I'd finish reading some of it. And then I remember the day where I actually bought like 4 books that I was like hiding there. And I remember it felt so good to buy these books, man. And I was like, I'm finally doing something with my life.
You're like, thank God no one's going to take these books from me. And yeah, dude, I know exactly what you mean.
But the compound effect is another one.
Oh yeah. Darren Hardy, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, I recommend that one to everyone. Cause
so good.
Like failure doesn't just show up, and neither does success, right? Like it's the compound effect of all the decisions and things that have happened in your life, like in your relationship, in your business, everywhere. It's like, it's a compound effect. Like hardly anything is just a surprise, right?
Yeah. We like to act like it is so that way we don't have to take responsibility for it.
Yep.
But yeah, no, almost nothing's a surprise. You're right. Nothing comes out of left field.
So I took a lot away from that book. And I bought into the belief of the compound effect. This is a book I read in like 2006, and I've probably reread it 6-7 times. But I bought into that belief early on to know like, okay, everything I'm doing right now is going to help me get where I want to be in 10 years. And I just kept telling myself that. And like sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but it all did.
But after 10 years, you realize like, holy shit, it is, right? Or it does. Dude, it's same thing. Like, so I've been, there's this guy, Naval Ravikant, who I've read and listened to a lot of in the last couple of years. And he talks about like, the power of compounding. Like everybody knows about compound interest. It's the 8th wonder of the world, blah, 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 and you've seen the charts of like how powerful having your money compound over a long period of time is. But Naval, like one of the ways Naval talked about it was like, he's like, money's not the only thing that compounds. Relationships compound. Your skill set compounds. Like there's the time. It's the way you and I learned this was time on task over time. That's compounding, right? It's all of a sudden you look up and I'm in this for 15 years or 17 years or whatever. And you realize like, dude, I got the Rolodex of this. I got a business that does that. I'm able to do this. Not because I do anything special right now, but the compound effect of showing up to work and trying to get better every day for 17 years. Like that's truthfully. And so it makes it look easy to outsiders who don't realize that like, well, it is easy now, but it's only easy because you started building it 15, 17 years ago.
Yeah, dude, I had people one year. I had so here's the thing. So I'm gonna go back to your other question too. You asked if somebody's wanting to build a team, like a piece of advice, right? Like number one, if you asked me, I wouldn't. It's been a lot of work, dude. So I wouldn't go back and do it the way I did. I learned that I could get there faster, partnering with the right people.
Yeah.
And like, it's the same thing though, like building the team today, I still have to partner with the right people. I just have the platform, right?
Yep.
But if I would go find the platform, number one. Number two, if you're just like, no, I'm not doing that. Number two, because that's going to be most people, right? So number two is going to be, like learn, like, man, this is one big thing I see a lot of people starting a team do is they feel like one bad review or one upset client because the agent screwed up or whatever, they feel like their business is over. And like that one thing that's really loud is like, they feel like it's the end of their career and they're going to treat their agents like you ruined me, you know?
Yeah.
And really what you should be doing is like, if you brought them in, like today I won't bring anyone on my team. If I couldn't sit here and hang out with them, then I can't work with you.
Because, that's a great test.
And man, it's that's what I base it on mainly is because I'm like, okay, well, I have to be able to care about you, like you as a person, to help you get where you want to be. Because if I bring you on and I don't feel that way, like I'm failing you.
Yeah.
And so I just won't do that anymore, but because I've done that in the past. But so number one, if you bring them in and you've made that decision that you're going to help them and they go screw up, like, man, like it's your duty as the leader to make them, like, empower them, right? Because that they're not that one mistake. That's not who they are. And so they're that one person. Like, man, I had a girl one time sell 80 something homes in 1 year, and she made more mistakes than everybody. But she sold over 80 homes.
Took more action than everybody.
Yeah, took more action, right?
Yeah.
And so she made a lot of mistakes, and almost every top producer made more mistakes than everybody. One of my other top producers I had actually had like clients calling and complaining and being like, yeah, they won't leave me alone. They keep calling me. And I'm like, hell yeah, you know, like,
exactly.
Like that's good feedback. Like the bad feedback is the person that keeps everything perfect the way they are and you never hear anybody and they're also not selling very much.
Yeah.
And so, like just empower people. Like that's our slogan is we empower powerful agents. And I really do believe it. That's why I made that slogan, is because you have to be the leader who empowers them to see who they are, because they don't know who they are a lot of times. Like,
so good.
And so you have to help them see it, and you have to see it in them. And so when they have something bad happen, man, it's not the end of your career. Like, trust me, I've had some bad things happen. Like, I could name them a bunch, but we've had the cops at our office, like,
Jesus.
And so, and in the moment of those crazy things,
feels terrible, right?
Feels terrible. Feels like it's the end of your career. But what's crazy is that goes away. All of it goes away. The loud stuff on Facebook of them like complaining about your agent, and you think like, you're ruining my brand, my team. Like, none of that's true. And it all goes away. And actually the person doing it looks kind of crazy, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so that would be number one, is just be prepared for that. And also number two, know that there's not just one way to do business, that there's a bunch of different ways to do it. And their personality has got to be what you use to empower them, like who they are. Because if you try to change who they are, man, you got a long journey of like headaches, because what you need to do is see what's good in them and help them utilize that one thing to get to their goal.
Yeah.
And like empower that, right? So like find that one thing in them, empower it. And no matter if they screw up or not, like failing forward is actually a really good thing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. More than one way to succeed. God, so important. Such a lesson for people to learn. Because they're not you. Like, just because you hired them doesn't mean they're you. Just because they want your results doesn't mean that they are you. And so learning to not to just like understand that their people are different and that succeed differently, but to like be okay with it and even celebrate it. Like, I would say the way you have.
Yeah. And just because you're a good sales agent doesn't mean you're going to be a good team leader. Like it's a different sport, man.
Oh God, it's so different.
And like a lot of people think like, oh, I sold a bunch of homes, now I'm going to hire people. And like, I've actually seen the opposite happen, where they hire people and then their production goes away.
It's usually, I feel like more often than not, it's someone who's pretty good at sales. They're not the top dog. Like, they're not going to do 80 deals a year on their own, but they're good at sales, and they understand people. Those are the people that end up, I believe, making better leaders in our industry than the people that can just have a high personal. Because getting the most out of yourself is one thing. Helping other people get the most out of themselves, totally different. That's a different skill set.
It's so much harder, man.
Yeah, that's like it. That's the difference of being Michael Jordan and coaching Michael Jordan. Like that's being Michael Jordan is one thing, right? And maybe that's a bad example because he's like the greatest ever. But Michael Jordan getting the most out of Michael Jordan is one thing. Phil Jackson being able to not just get the most out of Michael Jordan, but to everyone else around him, that's a different skill set that I promise you, without a doubt, Michael Jordan did not have that skill. Mm-hmm. Now, so like those two are the two greatest at what they did, and they're wildly different skills. And so I think that transfers over too. Like, great salesperson doesn't make you a great leader in a sales business. Just doesn't.
Doesn't. I know. And like I took this from somebody, and I don't remember who, but like good systems will make ordinary people extraordinary people.
Yeah.
And so like if you're going to start a team, like you've got to figure out like what's your system, and it's got to be duplicatable, because if it doesn't duplicate, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so if your value is because you're a good salesperson, like you're not going to have a system that's duplicatable for a team. Like you might be able to teach some skills to somebody.
Yeah, you might be able to grow a little bit, but you're not going to feel true duplication.
Yep. And what I found too is most people that join our team, like that's not all their goals. They don't want to be the best salesperson, but if I can impact their life in some way to make them just live a better quality of life, and maybe by just being involved in like our daily conversations, like they've became a better mom, a better dad, a better spouse, they have better friends, they feel more involved in a community. Like people are looking for that more than they're looking for the next sale.
Yep.
And so like create that environment and make that the priority, and then plug people into that and focus on them as a human being and changing their life and being somebody. Like somebody asked me recently, what do you want to be remembered by? I was like, I just want you to always remember, like, man, having David in my life was good. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, dude, I think that's like simple and powerful. Simple but powerful. Maybe is the right word there. I feel the same way. Like I wrote that down a long time ago as an exercise at a like a leadership conference, which was just like, I think I just want you to be better off for having known me. That's it. Yeah. That's like I know that, and that's not really quantifiable. Like you can't put a number to that, but that's the only way I know how to express it. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. The problem with doing this though is like, and I haven't mastered this yet, is as you do that with people, you'll have people that are really important to you that you've poured into that leave you.
Uh-huh.
And that destroys you sometimes.
Oh, dude, that's hard.
It is hard. So like learning to be okay with that happening and like still caring about them is something that I'm going through. And I've actually gone through that like my whole career, but every time it comes up, it's like fresh again, Yeah. And so, I've actually been telling myself lately, like I'm the guy who writes down like affirmations and looks at them and stuff. And so like one of the things I look at is like I know that I impacted their life. I know, and like me believing that, whether they saw it or not, just knowing that I did whatever I could to make their life better.
Yeah.
And no matter what they're doing today, like I still love and care for them, and maybe, and this is just my personal belief, maybe if they left me, maybe we're not going to be as close as we used to, and that's okay, because they need to go live their journey in their life,
Yeah.
And that's totally okay. It's just hard sometimes.
It's like that saying, I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's effectively like, it's a manager, two managers, or like, CEO, president, whatever. It's like, we got to train our people. And it's like, well, what if we train them and they leave us? It's like, yeah, but what if we don't and they stay with us? That's the only thing that's worse. Yeah. Like, what if you don't pour into people? What if you don't train them and help them get better, and then they stay around you forever? That's like, that sounds like hell. Yep. You're much better off like pouring into people, training, helping them get better, and knowing that some people will move on, and some people, like a lot of people won't, but some people will move on, and that's okay. and learning to find the wins in that. So,
yep. And then going back to like people too. I mean, man, I told him recently this too, and he acts shocked every time I tell him. But Dustin's been somebody in my life.
yeah.
You know, obviously, and like tomorrow, like a lot of people will get to see him for the first time tomorrow, which will be awesome at our live Fired Up Fridays. But like, I started with Dustin, like when he was starting, like Dustin.
Yeah.
Right. And like
It was like when Dustin was becoming Dustin.
yeah. And so like I got to know him just a little bit right before, and then like we kind of like grew together a little bit. And man, it's insane because I know I grew a lot, but I watched him just like poof, like take off.
It's been fun as his friend. And you know what's funny is I'm gonna say this. I'll tell you this in a minute, which I think you'll appreciate. But you just mentioned, so like we're recording this. What's today? Like
22nd.
All right, so we're recording September 22nd. This will probably be published like first week of October-ish, right? So tomorrow, the reason why you're in town is we're doing a Fired Up Fridays. If you haven't been on firedupfridays.com, you've heard it, like, because for the last 2 weeks we replayed me as a guest on Fired Up Fridays with Dustin interviewing me. So we're going to Curtis Johnson's office in Chandler tomorrow, and we're actually so Dustin has different guests on, and sometimes he's the only speaker, and just like it's just his way to pour into people. So if you haven't experienced Dustin, you have to. We're gonna do one live at EXPCon in Las Vegas. I think it's like the 11th through the 14th is EXPCon, so that makes Friday the 14th, if I'm doing my math right. Sorry, I shouldn't be doing public math right now if I don't have my calendar right. But so that Friday we're gonna do one live in Las Vegas at the Bellagio. No, not Bellagio, Mandalay Bay, right? So we've got a big hospitality suite there. Dustin's going to do Fired Up Friday live. So I'm going to share this story with you. Enough of the pitch there for Dustin, firedupfridays.com, which is, I think, your idea to get Dustin out of his shell and to just like share more.
I think I believe in him more than he believes in himself sometimes, even though he really believes in himself.
He really believes in himself, which is crazy to think that. So you'll appreciate what I'm about to share with you, because I've only shared this with a couple people. And I just barely told Dustin about it. Efren, who you were talking to. So Efren on my sales team, young guy, really grinding it out, like working to build his business. He's a good guy. We were having lunch together recently. And I was telling him I was like, dude, I have this guy in my life. And sometimes what I have to tell myself is I just want to be the guy that Dustin thinks I am. I'm constantly just like, sometimes I bet you once a week I'm like, would the Kevin that Dustin thinks is Kevin get this done or not? And if the answer is yes, then I'm doing it. And truthfully, I literally just think I just want to be the guy that Dustin thinks I am.
Man, and he's the master at making everybody in his life feel like that, right? Yeah,
right. Yeah,
and it's so funny. I had right before you said that, I had said that like I think I believe in him more than he believes in himself sometimes. And the reason I said that is like years ago we went to our like first Tony Robbins like seminar together, and we're at UPW, and all I could think was, I was like, dude, I could see you doing this. Like that's you. And he just like shook his head and laughed at me, and I was like, no, I really do think it's you, man. And then we kind of blew it off, and I don't even know if he remembers that, but I've always like, he's impacted me so much that I just know what he's capable of, man. And like,
oh, dude, yeah.
And a lot of people don't have that person in their life, like you just shared, right? And like Ed Milet actually talks about how like most people only have one or two people in their life that like see something good in them and tell them. And Dustin's the guy that tells everybody he meets something good about them all the time, or makes
constantly, constantly. Like he'll remind you about it.
Yep. Every
time you talk to him, he'll remind you of the thing that he sees in you that's powerful, which is like one of the powerful things about him. You know, it's funny, dude, no one knows this. I've never told anybody. Dustin knows it because he was the other person involved. But like, when you share that story, UPW, I was there. That was the first time we really got to hang out, and it was amazing, man. I still think about that trip. In fact, Dustin and I were sharing pictures from that dinner at Gibson Steakhouse, just like 2 weeks ago. But, Dust, I was like, dude, will you come down to Phoenix and talk to my team? And we're having like a big, like 2-day deal. It was next door at the Embassy Suites. And so Dustin gets up, drives 4 hours to get here at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, whenever it was. And he's like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, do you, bro? Like, go do what you do, share, so into this room. And there's like, 50, 60 of us. And bro, he gave the best talk I've ever heard in my life. And, I was so blown away. I'd never heard him speak before outside of like, he and I have conversations. I'd never heard him speak before. And I quite literally was like, I couldn't do anything but cry. Like, I was just like so thankful for the way that he just poured into everybody. And I remember Tony McCarty. I don't know if you know Tony, but she was Fidelity Home Warranty, regional president or vice president for whatever for a long time. She happened to be there that day, and she pulled me aside. She was like, that might be one of the best talks I've ever heard in my entire life. And for Tony to say that, like, that's not, she doesn't go handing out compliments like that. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
He's got something. So, we all need a friend like that.
No, I think it was May 28th last year is when we did our first Fired Up Fridays. And I reached out to Dustin, and I'm like, it was just one of those conversations where I'm always like, okay, like, he's somebody I want in my life. And so it's like, what can I do with him? What can we do to help each other? And like, and he was telling me prior to this, he's like, man, he's like, I really like when you like give me ideas or push me to do something. He's like, I'll always do it. He's like, I get so caught up in my day-to-day stuff that I don't think like that. And I don't think like you or see the opportunity like you do. And so he's like, always do that. And I was like, what if we just did like a meeting every once in a while for people? And he's like, what? I'm like, well, like, what if like the stuff that you do already, like, what if we did something like virtual? And he's like, okay. And we started talking about it. And so then we decided to do Fired Up Fridays. We had no idea what it was going to be like. He's like, I'll just show up. You get everything set up. I'm like, all right. So I start setting up the website and like people to be able to like RSVP online and stuff. And like, I did everything really, really basic. Like, we're actually getting ready to launch a way better system, but we did it real basic just to get started. And we had 38 people on our first call, and we were like, oh wow, people showed up. Like, how cool. Today we have over 1,000 people on our list, and tomorrow's a live event. We have 98 RSVPs right now.
Damn.
I know, people flying out here to come see it.
Yeah.
Like, and here's what's insane, man, is like, we decided to do this day one. We were like, okay, no sales pitches, no nothing, like just value, just contribute, and like, we're like, what if we created a community across the entire nation that was people who wanted to give, contribute, and like grow and like actually get good results in their life? Like, we would be creating like an unstoppable group, right? And like, and that's what we're doing, man. And it's so crazy because we'll have 100 people on our weekly call every single Friday, sometimes 160. And what's crazy is it's continuously over a year now, that many people, and it's still growing. And what's insane to me though is the people that come, it's like, it's a different group of people, like a different vibe. Like it's like they come and they understand, like they're developed in their mindset, like they understand like boundaries, they understand business, they understand like that they're here to grow, like they mean business. They're not here just messing around.
Yeah, it's so true, dude.
And so like that, like we're creating like a group that like both of us are just like passionate about. And like to have 100 people on our first freaking live, man, is like pretty awesome.
I'm so excited for tomorrow. Well, let's do that, dude. Let's cut it off here. Before we do though, if someone wants to like follow along, what's the best like social media or whatever? How do people find you?
Yeah, Facebook or Instagram, just David Queen or Savage DQ is the handle. Yeah,
we'll talk about the Savage next time. We'll have to do a part 2.
Oh hell yeah, I'm excited for that.
We're going to talk about that for sure. I know. I'll just say there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I'm excited about for you. So all right, so dude, thanks a lot for doing this. Like, this was fun. I mean, I could do this for like 2 more hours. We actually killed the camera battery. So I just heard that turn off about 5 minutes ago. And so I think this is like a good stopping point, but I know there's gonna be a part 2. I'm excited for tomorrow and for some of the stuff that we've got cooking together, and continue to watch BMP grow.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right, dude. We'll see you guys next week.